Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So this is the first video of my toxic relationship series. I'm a little bit nervous to make this video. I feel like I've been wanting to make this series for a really long time now and I just haven't been ready, but I'm ready to share my experiences with you guys. So I've had physically abusive relationships, mentally abusive relationships, had some toxic friendships, not such a great relationship with food. I feel like making this series is gonna help me heal a lot. I've been in the process of healing for years now. This is just gonna be my way of releasing and hopefully helping you guys in the process. Here it is, I'm being really vulnerable right now, so just please be kind in the comments. I'm not looking for sympathy or for anyone to feel sorry for me. I just kind of want to get this off my chest. If you guys are going through similar situations, I hope this really helps you a lot. So this first video is gonna be about being in a physically abusive relationship. I have not written down like notes or any sort of order of how I'm gonna make this video, so just bear with me if I ramble a lot or get off subject, but I pretty much just want to tell you what happened in my abusive relationship, how I got out of it, how I'm healing from it, because it's been about 10 years now and I'm still healing from it. It's definitely a process and it's not easy by any means. I was in high school when this started. I'll just get into my experience. So a little backstory, this is going to be for a different video, but I attempted suicide when I was 16 years old. I was a senior in high school. After that is when I met my boyfriend at the time. I was in a really vulnerable place. I felt like a lot of my friends weren't there. Well, I felt like I didn't really have any friends in high school. 16 was probably the worst year of my life, which I will get into in other toxic relationship videos. So I met this guy. I was working at a movie theater, and the movie theater I worked at was kind of like the hangout spot for a bunch of high school kids. And so he just randomly came in. Everything was really good. And then about a year into our relationship, he started being really abusive. I honestly can't even tell you the first time that it happened. I feel like my brain has blocked a lot of stuff out. I do remember him apologizing all the time right away. Progressively got worse and worse because I had already been in a relationship with him for a year. I felt like I really loved him and it was hard for me to think about just walking away. I think there's a lot of misconceptions and misunderstandings with people who aren't in abusive relationships, judgments of people who are in abusive relationships. Like, why don't you just leave this person if they hit you? I think by the time it started happening, I was already in it. I was in that high school love. I really thought that this was like, you know, my first love. It wasn't just as easy as leaving. I felt like my self-worth was totally disintegrating. When you have low self-esteem and self-worth, it's a lot easier for someone to manipulate you or abuse you and you think that it's your fault. So that's exactly what happened to me. I didn't really have anyone to turn to or talk to. I didn't know how to react to the situations I was being put in, and I continually felt like it was my fault. That's what a lot of abusive people do, is make it seem like it's your fault. And I feel like I was scared to leave. There's a lot of factors that go into not leaving. So we started to get in arguments like pretty much every single day, and he would headbutt me so hard in my face, in my nose. A lot of times I would feel like honestly he broke my nose. So that's another reason I want to get a nose job. In my mind, I kind of feel like maybe he's the reason that I don't like my nose very much. It's hard being so young and going through an abusive relationship. Obviously, it's hard at any age. Attempting suicide, I ended up in a mental hospital and then meeting this guy. I didn't understand how to love myself. I'm still in the process of learning that right now, but I think I was at such a low at that point in my life that it was easy for him to come in. There were a lot of signs that I should have seen early on in the relationship. His family was really dysfunctional, had a lot of anger issues, and in the beginning it wasn't towards me, it was towards everything else, and then it started only being towards me. So I think there's some red flags that you can see in the beginning of a relationship, even if you think everything's going great. I remember one time he was choking me so hard and his mom and sister had to come in the room and say like, you're gonna kill her. You need to stop right now, you're gonna kill her. And then 5 seconds later, his mom would be yelling at me like, you bitch, like the cops are gonna come, like cussing at me. And so on top of feeling like someone almost took my life, then someone else is blaming me and telling me that it's my fault. And here's the thing with being in a physically abusive relationship is 90% of the time they will come back right away and tell you they're so sorry and how much they love you and they're never gonna let it happen again. And so you kind of start to believe that. I forgive you because I love you so much. This was just a one-time thing. Well, a one-time thing turned into like every single day. I have bruises up and down my arms, like gnarly bruises. I worked at Coffee Bean at the time. And my boss came up to me and said, Jonmarie, you're gonna need to wear long sleeves because customers are asking if you're being abused or why you have so many bruises on your arms. Thinking about it now, I'm like, why didn't she try to help instead of making me feel also like it was my fault? I tried to hide it from like everyone in my life. One time my mom asked me if I had a black eye, and I told her that I just had bags under my eyes and I didn't put enough makeup under one eye. I started wearing my glasses all the time so people wouldn't see it. I secluded myself from a lot of people. So there's also signs that you can tell that your friend is in an abusive relationship even if they don't want to talk to you about it. And it's such a sensitive, fragile subject. I think it's really hard for people to understand if they've never been in that situation before, understand why someone's staying or how they're truly feeling on the inside, because it just genuinely destroys your self-esteem and self-worth. I think it's really easy to judge someone if you've never been in that situation, but being in that situation myself, I know that no matter what anyone told me, I was going to need to learn whatever lesson I needed to learn on my own. If you have a friend going through this type of situation, of course, be there and support them. If you don't agree with them staying with this person, don't just shun them off and say that you're not going to be friends with them anymore, because that actually makes things so much worse. I know it's so difficult to see someone going through something like this and kind of letting them go through the motions themselves. There's things that you could say to someone that could actually trigger it and make things worse. Just be cautious with your words, but definitely be there for your friend. Don't bail on them when they need you the most. I will never forget my 18th birthday, not because I had a fun 18th birthday. I got in an argument the night before my 18th birthday, and so I got in my car and locked the doors and I said, you're not gonna hit me, I'm not gonna let you. He got in front of my car so I couldn't drive away, and he just started banging his fists on the hood of my car. 50 dents at least in the top of my car. That is how I started my 18th birthday. Dad ended up calling the police and filing a police report. I used to lock myself in a room and call his best friend and say, help me, I'm so scared. I also am one of those people that just wants to help every single person in this world. He, like I told you, really had no drive and was kind of a low life, so I helped him get his first job. I helped him learn how to drive a car, my car. His mom obviously wasn't willing to help him. And I also started paying for everything too. So I felt like this person was relying on me. And I was 16, 17, 18 years old. It was about a 2-year relationship before I finally said I can't do this anymore. The like straw that broke the camel's back was him and I were arguing one night, and it was like 2:30 in the morning. He headbutted me really hard. We were in his kitchen and I just saw blood all over the floor. It literally looked like a murder scene, and I just thought to myself, holy shit, that's my blood, like on the ground. Seeing that kind of took me out of my own body, and I was just like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I can't self-destruct and let someone else destroy me at the same time. So then instantly he started apologizing and telling me that I needed to stay at his house because it was too late for me to drive. I obviously was so upset, and I ended up getting in my car and driving home. I was so emotionally exhausted. I ended up falling asleep and hitting the center median in a road. Thank God it was so late at night and no one else was really on the road. My car wouldn't drive. I completely destroyed my wheel well. I had like 1% on my phone, and at the time there were no like cell phone chargers that you could charge your phone in your car. So I remember calling my mom, telling her I got in an accident and I just needed to be picked up. Both my parents came, and normally I would be mortified that my dad would be really mad at me for getting in a car accident, but he just looked at my mom and said, like, take her home. She needs to go home and I'm gonna figure this car out. I didn't leave my room for about 3 days. I never spoke to my ex ever again. I think at that moment I realized that I need to love myself more than I need to love anyone else in this world, especially someone who is physically abusing me. Something you need to understand about physical abuse is that it translates to mental struggles, especially if someone isn't mentally healthy to begin with and then they enter an abusive relationship. It's very difficult to pull yourself out of that. I think a lot of times people who are physically physically abusive are really nice in the beginning and it doesn't happen right away. I think my best advice for a friend who's there to support someone in an abusive relationship is to make your conversation friendly, not preachy. Express your concern, of course, in a positive conversation instead of talking at them or making them feel like they're being attacked. You have to allow your friend to make their own decision and understand that abusive relationships are very complex. It's not as easy as just leave. Sometimes you feel a trauma bonding or a loyalty to the person who's abusing you. I actually looked this up. This statistic is that someone will leave an abusive relationship 7 times before finally leaving. You really don't know what an abuser is gonna do, so if you break up with them and piss them off in some sort of way, you don't want to get hurt even more than they're hurting you. I actually also felt that as well, and when I moved to Los Angeles, I was scared that he was gonna find me. That's terrifying to think of because he knew where I lived, he knew where I worked, all this stuff, so that's always in the back of your mind as well. Give suggestions, but don't push one single thing on them. Always let them know, I keep hammering this in, but let them know that you support them in all of their decisions. You can give them the National Domestic Violence Hotline number. I'm gonna leave it right here, so if you guys need it or if you know a friend who needs it, don't hesitate to call them. You could also get a counselor if you don't feel like talking to someone close to you who you think will judge you in these types of situations. But always maintain a calm approach when talking to your friends about these situations. You want to make sure that you're letting them be in control. They've already lost control of one part of their life and one person is manipulating them and making them feel like shit about themselves. So don't contribute to that and make them feel like you're trying to control them or make a decision for them that's best for them, but maybe they don't understand that. So it's just a very sensitive subject to talk about. So one thing to help yourself get out of an abusive relationship is to understand that most abusers are needing control of something. They're fearful of something. So you need to figure out what their fear is so that you can disable it. I don't think I did a very good job of this, and I totally understand why people hide their abuse. My suggestion is to take pictures of everything and make sure you note the date and time so you have evidence of everything, because even if you're not strong enough to get help or go to the police, someone else in your life may. Or maybe when you are strong enough to go to the police, you will have all this evidence to back up everything that you're saying. But I would say that that relationship was a huge contributing factor in my low self-esteem and thinking that I'm not good enough. I feel like I've been put in these situations so that I can help other people who may be going through that or have a friend going through it. I know everyone's story is different and everyone's coping mechanisms are different. Everyone's idea of a support system may be a little bit different. A lot more people go through physical abuse than I think anyone talks about or is willing to admit. I think being in a physically abusive relationship and then being in an emotionally abusive relationship has made it difficult for me to be in a healthy relationship that I am in now. I've never been in a healthy relationship, so I don't know what that looks like, what someone loving me looks like. So a lot of times Casey will be like, just let me love you. And it's very difficult for me to do that because I feel like I'm guarding myself so much. Of course, Casey would never abuse me in any way. This is literally the most healthy relationship, but I think I have personal mental blocks because of the relationships that I have been in the past. Just understand that after you get out of a physically abusive relationship, that you are gonna have a battle to fight within you. And once you get a healthy relationship, first of all, you're gonna realize, like, why was I ever in an abusive relationship to begin with? You're gonna start building your self-worth. Having someone love you the way that they should is the most incredible feeling. And while I'm battling things inside of me, I have this incredible human being who's helping me through all of that and who understands that things that happened to me 8 to 10 years ago are still affecting me. Don't ever be afraid to ask for help. And I know it's very difficult to not feel ashamed or responsible for being in a physically abusive abusive relationship, you have to understand that this is not your fault. Maybe start hanging out with your friends more so you don't have time to hang out with the person who's abusive. I know that's really hard if you're married to this person or if you have kids with them, but finding a hobby that's purely for you and getting your mind out of that situation. I know self-care is a huge thing, so whether that's going on a walk or meditating or going on a hike. So I hope these tips help you guys if you are in a physically abusive relationship or you have a loved one in a physically abusive relationship. I didn't want to just talk about the things that happened to me. I wanted this video to help you guys if you're feeling lost or like you don't have anyone to talk to, and just how to be there for your friend. So thank you guys so much for watching my first video in my abusive relationship series. So I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye guys.